$500,000. That's what Robert's decision cost his wife, Susan. And she didn't realize what had happened until it was already too late. Robert is one of those retirees who should never claim Social Security at 62. And if you recognize yourself in any of these situations, especially the one where almost everyone gets the math wrong, you're walking away from money you'll never get back. Robert was 62 and Susan was 54. He'd been the primary earner his whole career. He owned a small manufacturing business and she had worked part-time and raised their kids. And most people don't understand this, but when one spouse passes away, the survivor keeps the higher of the two Social Security benefits, and the lower benefit, it just disappears. Which means if the higher earner claims early and locks in a reduced number, the surviving spouse is stuck with that number for the rest of their life. Robert's benefit at 62 was $2,800 a month. If he had waited until age 70, it would be $4,900 a month. He didn't need the income, but Robert wanted to enjoy it, so he claimed it at 62. So if you fast forward 15 years, Robert passes away at age 77, unfortunately. And here's what they never really thought about. Susan doesn't go back to her own benefit. She doesn't get to keep both. She switches to Robert's $2,800 a month. And so that becomes her baseline Social Security check for the next 20 years. So if we look back, if Robert had waited until 70, the same scenario plays out. Except Susan's survivor benefit is now $4,900 a month instead of $2,800 a month, right? So that's $2,100 more every single month. And so over 20 years, that's more than $500,000 in additional income for her. So Robert claimed early because he was worried about dying before he broke even. But unfortunately, that's what most people miss. Social Security really isn't a retirement income plan. For most retirees, it's the only insurance that they have against living longer than their money lasts. And if you claim it wrong, that insurance unfortunately gets cut in half or even sometimes worse, which is why the person that paid the price for Robert's decision wasn't Robert, it was Susan. And unfortunately, like I said, that's a decision that you can't take back. So my name is Chris McClure. I've been a financial advisor for over 31 years, and I put these videos together about once a week or so. And it's really honest information, hopefully for high net worth families who have worked too hard to leave money on the table. Robert and Susan's story is the worst version of this, right? The most common version, the one the actual Social Security Administration creates by the way they pay benefits out, happens to anyone still working past 62. See, Jim's a senior engineer. He's age 63. He had just retired from a large manufacturing company. He filed for Social Security the week he left. 6 months later, he picked up some consulting work and he was making $75,000 a year, which is great. And his Social Security checks, unfortunately, just stopped coming. He called me confused, and so I had to explain what almost nobody tells you. If you claim full retirement age and you're still earning above a certain threshold, about $23,400 a year, the Social Security Administration withholds your benefits. For every $2 you earn over that, they take back $1 of your check. So earn $62,000 or more and your entire benefit, it's withheld and gone. So not only was Jim receiving nothing, he had locked himself into a permanently reduced benefit he wasn't even allowed to collect yet. If he'd waited until either the consulting work ended or he hit full retirement age, over 20 years, that's around $240,000 more in lifetime benefits. If you wait until age 70 and it's closer to $430,000 more. So if you're still working past 62 and you're earning real money, just don't do it, just wait. Robert and Jim and Susan, they all had different situations, but they all had the same costly decision. The third type goes back to a problem we've been getting wrong for generations. We plan retirement assuming people live shorter lives than they actually do. See, Margaret's a retired CFO from a regional healthcare company, and she was in excellent health, and her mom was actually 93 years old, and her grandmother made it to 97. So if longevity runs in your family, claiming at 62 is a bet you'll really likely regret. The argument for claiming early is always the same. The break-even age is around 80. If you don't live that long, you come out ahead, fine, that's right. Math is correct. But the analysis misses the point entirely, in my opinion. Remember what I said earlier, Social Security is longevity insurance? The risk you're really protecting against is living too long with too little. See, Margaret's family tree makes that risk a near certainty. If she lives to age 95, which looking at that family tree seems pretty likely, if her mom's 93 and her grandma died at 97, she'd receive about $370,000 more in lifetime Social Security by claiming at 70 instead of 62. And here's the part that makes it even worse. Social Security, it has an annual cost of living adjustment. And COLAs, as they're called, are there to protect against inflation. They're calculated as a percentage of your current benefit. So if Margaret claims at 62 and gets $2,800 a month, a 3% COLA adds $84 a month. If she waits until 70 and gets $4,900 a month, that same 3% COLA, it adds $147 a month. So that's a $63 difference every year, and it compounds. Fast forward 20 years, she'd be receiving about $3,800 less a month because she claimed early, right? So that's almost $4,000 a month or $50,000 a year. The longer you live, the more valuable that insurance gets. Parents or grandparents into their 90s, they have excellent health, no major risk factors. Claiming at 62 is really a mistake. And there are two more situations that almost nobody catches in time. And the second one, that's where the real money is. But before we get to those, just really quickly, if you're watching this and you're already running the numbers in your head, maybe on your own situation, there's a link below. You can actually set up a call with me directly. There's no cost, no pressure, just a conversation about where you stand. And like I said, there's a link below. There's actually a quieter version of this Social Security trap. It's less dramatic than a widow losing $500,000. It's less obvious than a senior engineer losing his checks. I see it in people who have pensions almost every single week. So Diane is 63. She recently retired from the school district as an administrator. She had a pension coming in of about $4,800 a month, and it was enough to cover her basic expenses pretty comfortably. She came in planning to claim Social Security right away. She said, I just figure I should start taking whatever I'm owed. And I completely understand that. I get it. I come from a family of teachers, so I understand we want to get that money as quickly as possible. But what nobody had actually walked her through was she had about $680,000 sitting in a 403B, and it's all pre-tax. Her pension was already covering her bills, which meant she had a 7-year window between age 63 and 70 where her taxable income was unusually low. And once you miss that window, it doesn't come back. So instead of stacking Social Security on top of her pension, we actually used those 7 years to convert about $45,000 a year from her 403B to a Roth. So that kept her in the 12% bracket the whole time. And by the time she turned 70 and turned Social Security on, she had actually moved $315,000 into a Roth. And by the way, that Roth, it's also tax-free income for her kids. And her Social Security benefit, because we delayed, was 77% higher than it would have been at age 63. And so she told me I had no idea I was sitting on that kind of opportunity, and she almost wasn't. Another 6 months and she would have claimed, and that window would have been gone. Diane's pension, the fact that that pension covered her basic expenses, created an opportunity. The bigger the pre-tax accounts, the more valuable that opportunity gets. And the math on this one, it's one of the most well-documented opportunities in retirement planning. The problem is most retirees, they just don't know it exists. So the next one, the retiree with more than $2 million in pre-tax retirement accounts, claiming early doesn't just cost you Social Security dollars, it actually costs you tax planning flexibility. Watch what happens with two identical situations. Mike is age 63. He's a retired orthopedic surgeon. He has $2.5 million in his IRA. He claims Social Security right away. So that adds $36,000 a year in taxable income, and it pushes them up into that 22% tax bracket. So there's really almost no more room left for meaningful Roth conversions without bumping into that next tax bracket. So Mike does small ones instead. He does $30,000 a year, and that's it. Frank, also 63, he's a retired CFO. He has the same $2.5 million in his IRA, and he delays Social Security until he's age 70. So from 63 to 70, he has no Social Security. So he's living off taxable accounts, and he's also living off some of his IRA. During those 7 years, he converts $70,000 a year to Roth, staying in a 22% tax bracket the whole time. So he's moved almost $500,000 from pre-tax to Roth. He gets tax-free growth. He gets no RMDs on that money when he takes it out. And he also pays no taxes on the money when he takes it out. And oh, by the way, it also lowers the taxes for his kids. So at age 70, Frank turns his Social Security on at $5,000 a month. So he got 5 more years before RMD kicks in. So he keeps converting in that window too. By the time RMDs start, instead of being calculated on $2.5 million, they're calculated something on $2 million instead. And that's a meaningful difference every year for the rest of his life. Mike pays 24% on large RMDs for the rest of his life. Over 20 years, easily $150,000 in unnecessary taxes. Frank pays 12 to 22% on his conversions in his 60s. He permanently lowers his RMDs. He saves somewhere around $80,000 to $100,000 in lifetime taxes, and he locks in his Social Security benefits at 77% higher. So here's the part Mike never realized. He thinks he's claiming his Social Security. He's actually trading $80,000 of guaranteed lifetime income for the right to pay 24% on his IRA forever. That's the choice. That's what he agreed to without ever being shown. So if you have $2 million or more in pre-tax accounts, delaying Social Security to 70 is probably the single most powerful tax move available to you. Now, here's why so many people get this decision wrong in the first place. It's not because they're careless. It's not because they didn't do the math. It's because a Social Security claiming decision, it doesn't live in a vacuum. And most people, they're making it without anyone holding the whole picture. No one's looking at their entire situation. And every client situation I just walked through sits at the intersection of Social Security, taxes, investments, and even estate planning. And the families who claim at 62 and regret it, they weren't missing information, they were missing coordination. Because your CPA handles your taxes, maybe you have an investment person that handles your investments, and you have an estate attorney that's, updating your trust. Most of the time, those people haven't actually ever talked to each other, not even once. They've never looked at your entire full picture in the same room at the same time. I'm sort of a weirdo in my industry. I actually read tax returns, I read estate planning documents, I look at Social Security projections right next to investment statements and Roth conversion timelines. And those decisions, all those things we just talked about, they don't happen in isolation. They actually all affect each other. When was the last time your CPA and your financial advisor and your attorney were looking at the same spreadsheet together? Specifically working through what your Social Security claiming strategy means for your Roth conversions, for your RMDs, for your surviving spouse, for your husband or wife. For most families I meet, the answer is almost never. And unfortunately, it's not from bad investments. It's not from bad luck. It's just from the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. And that's costing them real money, sometimes a lot of it. And that's the work I love doing with these families, bringing everything into the same room. And that's really usually where the tax savings is. If this is the kind of thing that nobody's ever walked you through before, please hit subscribe. I put one of these together about once a week. And the list of retirees who should not claim Social Security at 62, they include the widow who ends up stuck with her husband's reduced number for the rest of her life, or the retiree still working past 62, or the one with strong family longevity, and they're giving away the only longevity insurance they'll ever own. Or maybe it's the retiree with a pension already covering their bills, sitting on a Roth conversion window they don't even know exists. Or maybe it's the retiree with millions in pre-tax accounts, and they're trading future lifetime income for a tax problem they could have avoided. Most of the families I sit with fit at least one of these, sometimes two or even three. I'm curious which one of these hits closest to home for you. Is it the widow situation? Is it the still working trap? Maybe longevity or the pension or the pre-tax mistake? Let me know in the comments. I actually read them and I love reading them. And also there's a link below where you can set up a time to talk. I really enjoy putting these videos together and I'd love to chat sometime. Hopefully this was helpful and I'll see you on the next one.